Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you're just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. Welcome back again to our Disasters of War series. This is actually part 2 of helping a guy out of a campaign situation. We will put his details up in an email. He has Kalinandros here, and he's in a difficult campaign situation. I'll paraphrase again his email. He said, basically, everybody's attacking him. It's been nonstop. Even though he kills them, they keep on coming. He had money problems. How does he deal with this situation? And this is a very common problem for people when they first become their own kingdom. He doesn't have enough money to really pay off these kingdoms for peace. That is the typical recommendation. You could see he only has 30,000. Now, we did get peace with the Western Empire, but it was almost free. Excuse me, the Southern Empire, and that cleared up our Eastern Front. They left Thorios alone. We cleared up the situation at Amitatis, but we're still at war with these 3 kingdoms, and all 3 are much bigger than us, right? As far as total forces, castles, and armies. Now, we took Legetta in the previous episode. We're starting to expand his realm a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of house maintenance here. But we are to the stage of a campaign where a lot of players sort of get frustrated or don't quite know what to do. And honestly, the answer is war, right? If you get to this stage of your campaign, you should be fighting. You will be fighting, right? Otherwise, you're going to lose ground. And if that's not for you, then I suggest that Bannerlord is probably not your game, right? That's what the core of Bannerlord is, this large-scale war. Now, the Western Empires to the south, they're probably going to attack Yalmyris at some point, but we're doing campaign strategy, and I'll talk about campaign strategy in this episode. It's all about opportunity, right? They're going to attack easy targets like this. You can count on Hertogia Castle being sieged soon. In fact, we were surprised it didn't get attacked yesterday. Now, the Valandians, this is more information for us. The Valandians we're also at war with, but they're busy, right? So for the very short term, we can count on Battanian attacking us. Maybe the Western Empire coming down either to Legetta or down to Yalmyris. We get 275 on this guy's throwing skill. That's a nice perk to have. He's doing major damage now as a javelin thrower. We're not probably going to do all of these perks here. I don't want to waste your time. And there's a chance that Alonso will, you'll do them differently. So we're probably not going to do a whole lot of that unless they're essential perks. Now, Legetta, look at the force, right? The garrison is very small. And we have a large garrison at Yalmyris. That's part of the problem here. He's hemorrhaging funds. We sold a little bit of stuff there. That helped a little bit, but we're still losing money day to day. So one of the things you want to do is essentially shuttle your troops, is a better word, to the frontier, right? You want to get your troops to where the targets are, right? Now, this is tedious. A lot of players can't stand stuff like this. I will do this quickly while I talk about some other factors within the campaign. All we're going to do here is drop off troops that I think are viable for a decent defense of the city. Units generally in auto-resolve fight similar to how they would on the battlefield, with some exceptions, right? Your weakest units on the battlefield, troops like the pikemen who have no shield and are generally considered a really weak tier 5, they will do basically the same as a tier 5 infantryman for other kingdoms, right? The simulation doesn't really detect the small differences that you see on the battlefield. So we're going to collect this garrison here, and I do this in about 20 seconds. I just shove almost all of the weakest troops here. We're going to put some good troops in here, right? Because otherwise it'll just crash, right? If you put nothing but weak troops, it won't survive. And what I generally do, if people want to know my thought process here, is I keep troops that I like to use on the battlefield. You will discover troops that you prefer on the battlefield, especially if you play as much as I have. And there are some troops that just don't fight very well in Bannerlord. And I guess what I mean by that is their effectiveness is limited. Spear infantry, very, very limited unless they're defensive. Some of like the pikeman units I don't particularly care for. And there are some weaker units that are just weaker units, right? Sturgeon archers are much weaker than other archers, or at least significantly weaker. And then, of course, we will flesh out this this garrison here with some higher end troops. Now, we're going to be able to run to Yalmyras and quickly fix this, right? We're going to be able to add a couple hundred troops from Yalmyras. And if anybody's played the game of Risk, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're taking troops from our now more protected interior and putting them out into the frontier where we're much more likely to be attacked. Again, some people hate this component of Bannerlord, but other people are playing it and they want to understand the thought process of an experienced player. That's what I'm doing here. Now, basically using these guys as a shuttle. We're going to go pick up some mid and low level units from Yalmyras. We're still going to protect and prioritize Yalmyras. That's our best city. That's where our wife is, right? She's pregnant. She's doing her thing. There's all kinds of resources there. That's also our stockpile. We have all of our food. We have all of our goods there. Let's head south. Let's do a little bit of scouting here. Of course, we'll assign Legata to us. We don't have any clans here. You don't want to be too encumbered, too. You're at a stage of Bannerlord where logistics becomes very important, and we'll talk more about that in this episode. And there may be one more episode for this series here, Lonzo. When you have a campaign that's this upside down, in other words, you go out into the world and say you're independent with 30,000 gold, you're going to have a very, very hard time surviving. And of course, that's what was happening. That's why this fellow rode in. By the way, if you have campaign situations that are similar but different, right? Same but different, please write in, right? Send your save files if you want me to look at it. We can exclude your name. We can include your name. We can, have details down for you, or we can keep you anonymous. And you have the option of just sort of observing what we're doing, monkey see, monkey do, or I will send you the save file and fix your campaign. That's not a guarantee I can fix every campaign, but this series has been popular. It's highly instructive, and hopefully we can continue that here. Now, I'm rushing over to Hertogia Castle because it's virtually the same distance here on the way back to Yalmyras. I was heading south to try to scout the Western Empire. We obviously failed at that little side mission. I want to know my enemy, right? Just like the last samurai. Now, we're going to fight this army in the open, and I'm going to do this a couple times, probably in this episode, where we fight slightly outnumbered. That is because we're at a vital stage of troop triage, right? We must limit our casualties here. 600 foes. If you auto-resolve this, I think conservatively you lose 200, maybe 250 troops. We can't afford that. I've got to get reinforcements moved to the front here. I've got to get these keeps and castles and cities with good defensive units so that they're harder for the enemy to take down. So we're going to do this fast, right? This is a battle that, for sure, F1, F3, charge or engage, any of the normal commands would work. Sergeants in charge would work. But all of those, I think, would yield 150 to 200 casualties. With some tactics, with just a very basic kill box here, I think we can do maybe 80 casualties or 100, maybe less, right? So 4th, 5th, and 6th, I make a smiley face out of my archer divisions from left to right. We're going to actually move up all of our infantry and cavalry that besides the 8th Corps on the left flank, and that's because we're going to try to sweep in with one side with skirmishers, shock troops, etc., and then surround on the other side with cavalry. So the far side, we're moving horse archers and cavalry, and it's 80% infantry, right? You can just tell from this zombie apocalypse of what we're dealing with here. Now, infantry is the easiest of all the different types of units to kill efficiently. If this was 700 archers or horse archers, we would suffer 150, 200 casualties almost unavoidably, right? But infantry is a whole different matter, right? We're going to be able to surround these guys here. We now have horse archers behind them already, right? The 6th Corps is moving hard to the enemy's right flank. They're going to be pounding them with javelins and shooting them from the side. They do have a bunch of archers here, right? So we're going to have this infantry that I told you about before. They can all charge, right? They're there for a reason. They're there to bore in on the enemy infantry. Just a little bit of kiting here with our archer divisions. We'll bring in cavalry now behind the enemy here just to sort of hammer, anvil, slash swirl behind them. And while we're attacking all their different units here, right, running through cavalry, our other units are just melting their big glob of infantry there. Nobody can miss, right? The enemy's packed in there. You can hear all the bolts hitting. And of course, this helps our units upgrade. And most importantly, right, the death spam. You can just see it's flushing green. There's almost no allied death. And in we go here with cavalry, right? The 1st Corps, 3rd Corps are in here fighting. We can bring the cavalry in behind. Now, I could have taken this to an extreme and just kited them to death. And maybe we have like 5 casualties, but I'm in a hurry here, so we'll just autoplay this and an F1, F3. The key, though, is that first, whatever that was, 60 seconds, 30 seconds of tactics, an elongated C formation, or some people call that a crane formation, is going to yield amazing results for us on the battlefield. Now, you might find this boring. That's definitely possible, and if you want to F1, F3, that's your prerogative. However, if you're playing a campaign like this and you're having a hard time, I recommend you do this, right? 32 casualties and we got 130 upgrades. That is the definition of efficiency. Take a bunch of these guys prisoner. His fiscal situation is going to get a lot better simply by selling nobles, right? We're collecting so many nobles from all the battle, all the loot especially, that very quickly, Lonzo, we're going to have you in the green. I mean, he's already in the green. What I mean by that is you're going to have a couple 100,000 gold. Maybe that'll be a good goal for the end of this episode, is a couple 100,000. When you're running a deficit the size of his, obviously you have to have lots and lots of battle here. So we get some nice bolts, and he has no crossbow units to use them. This guy has not a single ranged unit captain, not a single archer or crossbow. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Now, speaking of ransoms, they're already paying us ransoms for these pathetic Batanians that we sacked. Now let's run down to Yalmyras, and we literally want to run here. I want to talk about logistics. You want to make sure that your army is good sized without being huge. A lot of guys have a tendency to have, 1,700 troops in your army. You move very slowly if you have that many troops. Now, this is disconcerting, but I can explain this mechanic real quick. Thorios is starving. That's because the villages are too small to support that big of a garrison. So what we essentially have to have happen is a little bit of period of time pass where those villages stop being raided, and we got that through peace, and they start generating enough food to feed all the soldiers inside that castle. There's a huge garrison there. And if you go inside the castle, you can actually see it talks about how much food those troops eat, right? There's a realistic aspect there. Now, it still says minus 8,000, but I think that's because we just recruited a few mercenary units. I think you can disregard that. Now, what are we going to do here, right? We want to keep an elite core of units at Yalmyras. Mostly what I tend to do is take like-kind units of the city we're going to. So I'm going to focus on some units that I want for battle here. We are going to flesh out our companions again. Don't forget, war is inevitable here, right? We're going to be fighting Valandia, maybe Britannia again, and the Western Empire looms as well. So I'm going to take a bunch of these recruits and Imperial archers because they will upgrade at that city, right? If you can put in a governor there, generally the units from their own culture tend to upgrade faster unless she has very specific perks, right? So we're going to bring a bunch of Imperial units up to what is it, Legetta, and that place very quickly is going to look pretty damn good as far as a garrison, right? If you can get a city like Legetta to 250, 300 total troops, including the militia, what that does is it buys you time, and most players understand this. But as the city is getting sieged down, the larger the garrison, the more amount of time between the time that it gets attacked and you being able to respond and say, fuck off, that number increases the more defenders that are there. Now, you can have too big of a number, right? Calanandros here, Lonzo, tends to have much larger garrisons than I would recommend, hence the negative gold. There really is a sweet spot, just like your army size, and I'll talk about that in a second. As we move back to Legetta, I'll talk about army size. I would say your typical good garrison size for Bannerlord in the what I would call the early mid game here, or the mid game, Sorry, I'm having a hard time narrating here. We did do a little bit of drinking earlier, although we're quite sober now, I think. What I would say is that a good garrison is about 200, 250 total troops. Anything more than 400 is excessive, and obviously anything less than about 150 is not okay, right? It's going to fall too quickly for you to respond. And that includes the militia, right? And building the militia is a key here. Damn, there's a ton of animals here. I'm just going to buy these and shove these in the stash. You don't want your villagers using all your hogs, right? What I mean, or more accurately, you don't want those hogs just wandering off to caravans and stuff like that. I want you to be a hoarder with stuff like that because we have workshops that require hides, right? So we're going to take those animals. In fact, I'm going to dump some of these nice pieces of equipment in case we get captured in this episode, and then we will make our way back to Legetta. Now look at this, right? Use this information for your campaign decisions, for your strategy, right? The Western Empire is under duress here. They're being attacked clearly by the Northern Empire. Nobody else could be there, right? There's not a minor clan sieging at Ortesia. What does that mean, right? That means we have a little bit of time before the Western Empire and maybe Valandia attacks, right? Because Valandia was also busy. Now, there's 270 troops at Legetta. Legetta actually looks pretty good, but if you remember, we left those there in advance. We did that because we had to make space for the troops that are in our army right now to tote them up there, right? You're basically playing the shuffle game. There's all kinds of games that talk about logistics and things like that. Napoleon, Alexander the Great, these guys became logistical experts because it's part of war. Now let's smash whatever is here at Hertogia Castle. Maybe we'll fight it. Maybe we'll auto-resolve it. And here we go, right? The battles have started. And this is what Lonzo was talking about, right? It is nonstop. We're getting, it seems like we're getting sieged every other day. Now there's a couple different functions that are part of that. The first is that he's using the Strength and AI mod. If you use the Strength and AI mod, and this will just auto-resolve, although this would be a good example. Let's look at what happens here with this battle. In the previous battle against, 600, we had 32 casualties and a smaller army. Let's see what happens here against a much smaller Battanian force. Look at that shit. We had 120 casualties. We had about 4 times the casualties, even though the size of that Battanian force was much smaller. So there's all the evidence you need, right? You auto-resolve, you suffer casualties, you use good tactics, you get ahead of the game. And in some measure, that is what the whole game of Bannerlord is about at this stage. It's campaign strategy, of course. It's logistics, of course. But most importantly, and this is why our channel exists, you want to be good at tactics. Because if you can win a battle where maybe you got your brother, maybe you and your brother are playing in the same room, you're both at the same stage of a campaign. Every battle, he loses 200 troops and you lose 30. Who do you think's going to succeed, right? Obviously, you're going to have the luxury of way more healthy troops, way better results, and you're not going to lose the close battles, right? You're smashing the enemy. That's why our channel became a thing in the first place. Guys wander around Calradia, and it's hard. There's all kinds of nasty foes. You're going to be outnumbered sometimes. You're going to face sometimes foe after foe after foe, right? Where it's multiple battles in a row. And if you're the person who's F1, F3, if you're using sergeants, that's why you want tactics, right? It's very hard to convince those fellas that you need tactics. But that's all the evidence you need right there. And I'll underscore it and say it one more time. With 600 Battanians against our smaller force, we had 30-something casualties. When we auto-resolved against against 400, we suffered 130 casualties. Hugely more casualties. And by the way, that's probably what F1, F3 would have yielded there as well, right? You use tactics, even just our very quick 60-second C formation there that we formed, tremendously better results. And here's another perfect example. We're going to arrive in time to defend Legetta, but there's a force twice our size. If you're not good at tactics, this isn't even an option. You can't win this battle. Now we're still observing Thoriel's castle. These villages take a while. You can see the little hearths there. Hearths. I think it's hearths. It basically means, I think it means chimneys in this case. What it's saying is that the villagers are still, they're picking up the pieces of the detritus from all the raids and shit like that. When a village gets raided, it has to start over, right? Just think of it being burned to the ground, sacked, raped, all the other horrific shit. And it takes a while. Fuck, now we got a real problem. All right, we've got to beat this Valandian force to Legetta here. We have to push them away. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, just barely got there. And this is key. We're going to elicit another campaign strategy here, right? We're going to do divide and conquer. I'm pushing these guys away. As soon as they're far enough away, or we could try to destroy them here, it's going to be close. The city will fall pretty quickly here if we chase this force across the map, right? And the city's more important. What I want to do here is track them down quickly. So I'm making a cavalry captain, right? We're just going to put 100 cavalry on her army, and then we're going to set her loose. And a lot of times, as soon as she loses her disorganized state, she will chase them down. But I don't have a lot of time here. I've got to get back to the city. Damn. Sometimes they will automatically... That's going to suffice. We pushed them far enough away that we can now engage these other two forces before she gets there to help. We don't have the reinforcement mod going, and Alonzo didn't say he was using the reinforcement mod. Most players don't. So this is an option, right? We're fighting them in detail. Now we're outnumbered. The power bar favors them, or it's very close. So it's another battle where we need to limit casualties, right? And this is a really good example. If you suffer 900 casualties or 800 casualties in this battle, and you have like 200 healthy troops, you're captured for sure. The other Valandian force comes in behind you, and they take you capture. Now, I can promise you, if you auto-resolve this battle, you would have either very few survivors or you would lose, right? So you must use tactics here to succeed. This is a direct situation where if you don't use tactics, you can't succeed. Now, players sometimes say we're not using normal Bannerlord player damage, so I like to flash that little screen from time to time. It's amazing how many skeptics there are out there still. And then they do tactics themselves, and I see them the next week on the channel. Damn, dude, you revolutionized the game for me. Music to my ears. It offsets the guys who are like, that's impossible. You must be using lower player damage cheats or something like that. And man, it's exhausting. All right. So let's just do very simple tactics in this battle as well. We're going to use the terrain, we're going to use those rocks, we're going to use the water, and we're going to use a ridge to protect our archers, protect our shock troops. And I think we'll pull hard here to the left. There's a little bit of a hill over there. I don't know if you guys can see it. My eyes are trained to pick up stuff like that by now. There's water down that ridge. We're going to be able to have the enemy roar over the top of that ridge, expose themselves to our archers and skirmishers, and pound the living bejesus out of them, right? We're going to pound the Jesus out of... Oh, Jesus! That's what they're going to be saying. That's what they get pounded here. All right, men, follow me. Let's get this formation set up quickly. They're 300 units away. We should be able to get there in time, but sometimes if we can't, I like to stick a cav division and or a horse archer division out in front. Kind of tends to delay the enemy a little bit. They will deal with those cavalrymen and allow us to set up our formations. So the edge is a little bit shallow on the right here, or on our left, excuse me, on the enemy right. What we want to do there is basically get a whole bunch of cavalry in a shield wall, cut down all these trees after the battle is over, and get our cavalry. I think there's an object in the way. In fact, it's that stupid fucking tree. That's why I couldn't put troops in a big long line there. The UI really has a hard time with things in the way. And now we're just going to move these cavalry right in front of the enemy. That way they sort of occupy with them, sort of chasing them like a dog chases a car, right? They're going to be infatuated with these horse archers running in front of them. And that's going to buy our troops a little bit of time here to set up, right? That's a magic trick. All right, so first and second, shield wall, right? We basically want a line of iron staring at the enemy. We've got shock troops in there, and we're gonna flank hard with this 6th Corps. These are our skirmishers. We're gonna bring these guys hard around the enemy's left, our right, as soon as the enemy engages here. They're coming in like dipshits. Their archers are way far back, and that's just either a combination of poor AI or our horse archers spooked them into combat. The 1st and 2nd can charge. The 3rd Division, which is shock troops, they can charge. The skirmishers are already working, but I want a better spot for these guys. Right? Let's put them actually behind all their cavalrymen, and we might be able to flank their infantry as well. Now, guys are like, you're talking really fast. It's, you know, unless you don't want me to explain what I'm doing, I have to talk quickly, right? Now, we're pulling the 6th Corps away. I don't want them colliding with the enemy infantry. I want these guys coming in behind. So we're just going to drag them now around. The enemy infantry, you see how it vanished? It must have collapsed on our lines. That's good, right? That means they're in here in the maelstrom. They're getting shot. We got all kinds of iron here that they're attacking. Shield walled infantry, shield wall cavalry, they're all bunched up here. Now we can bring the skirmishers behind here, and this battle is fucking over. At least this first stage. this is going to be 2 battles in one. Right? The enemy has twice our number here, right? Has something like 1,600, 1,700 troops. We're going to have to continue to be efficient. But look at that death span. That's efficient, right? The enemy's getting liquidated. The cavalry's all bound up. Our archers were free virtually that whole battle. Our shock troops are in there rampaging. Skirmishers are now behind them. We can fight a little bit at the margin of the battle here. And we want to start getting units up to basically counter their archers, right? We want to give them a horse archer division or a shield wall infantry division. That way their archers aren't countering us as we approach. I can see their bullets flying in here. So let's go ahead and move cavalry up, and I'm also going to drag a cavalry division behind the enemy here, right? They're attacking left and right, and we're going to essentially try to interrupt them while the rest of our troops finish off their infantry and then move in for the kill here on the rest of their troops. I've got a cav division following me here. In fact, they're kind of getting in my way. That's just here to sort of menace the archers, keep them occupied a little bit. We'll run up and down their line a little bit, and up come our archers, right? We're going to move these guys up. Infantry up. Nice position here at the ridge. And now we just drag cavalry divisions right through the packed enemy ranks. Follow me, right? That is a command you're going to want to use a lot with your archers. Yeah, the enemy's coming up in disheveled lines here because we destroyed their main infantry so fast. That's a function of efficiency. As we get stuck as bad as you can get stuck here. I'm surrounded by fucking dipshit squires with little tiny wooden shields. If you kill the enemy slowly, they get reinforcements on you. If you kill them quickly like we did right there, where it's just an extermination, they just vaporize. And that's exactly what happened there. And of course, the reinforcements come up and they're disheveled because they can't regroup with the lines that have arrived. It's a domino effect in battle. Right? Effectively, one part of the battle has made this second part so much easier. And again, it's a big reason why some players struggle at this stage of Bannerlord. If you're not using tactics, there's a good chance you're struggling, right? Either that or you're just fighting very methodically. Of course, this episode can't be 12 hours. I can't have a 12-hour campaign recovery. We've got to do this fast, like the wolf, right? You fellas who've seen Pulp Fiction, that's exactly what we got going on here, right? Oh, you're sending the wolf? Shit, that's all you had to say, right? Just, it's one of those situations where you got a disaster. You killed a guy in your car and you sprayed blood all over the upholstery. We're going to fix it for you, right? We're going to get this situation solved, get this save game back to Lonzo here, and hopefully he can find some more problems for us because you're creating great content for the channel, man. All this different disasters of war here. He's kind of the model subscriber, right? I appreciate it, bud, and I don't mean that in a denigrative way. Again, I try to reiterate this point on a regular basis. There was for sure a stage of Bannerlord where looters fucking owned me, right? Where looters threw rocks at me on my horses until I was knocked off. I had a little raggedy guy with rags and 20 weapons skill, just like the rest of you fellas, and you get better, right? I went to Strat Gaming Guide and other gurus of the game. I got better, and here I am, right? You guys can get to this level as well. And just a massacre, right? We have 250 losses. We had more troops than I thought, and that's because the garrison was involved. But 260 losses here, and we're going to have almost as many upgrades, right? In that situation, that's tremendous. We actually had such a good result here. This other Valandian force may not even opt to attack us, that's subpar. Anytime you have an enemy in front of you, you want to put your steel on their flesh, right? Don't let them linger. Treat them like cockroaches or weeds in your yard. If you have the opportunity to destroy the enemy, you need to do so efficiently. They're just going to attack if we don't destroy them, right? So we need to track them down. Do some upgrades here. Is that right? I didn't take any injury or almost no injuries that battle? Or just, I guess he healed so quickly after that battle. He's 100%. It's wild. All right, so one of the armies escaped. A couple of them escaped. And they're thinking about it. They're like a hesitant sophomore, thinking if they want to ask out that super hot chick to the prom. They've had better ideas here, and so we're going to try to initiate combat. By dropping these units, we both look tastier to the enemy, but also these units eventually are going to run Calatil down, right? They're going to catch her. She just changed her mind. It's interesting, though, we're the attackers here. I think she came to attack us. Let's see how this works here. And this is another very important dynamic that I mention from time to time. Damn, that's about the worst possible visibility you can have. This is a combination of the realistic weather mod. We have like a dense fog, and it's nighttime, right? So it's perfect for you know, if you're a werewolf. That's what I was thinking. It's perfect if you're a werewolf, and terrible if you're a tutorial commander on Bannerlord for YouTube. You guys are not going to be able to see much. We'll try to make sense of this here. Let's get creative, though, too. Let's set up a formation here that is devastating for Valandian cavalry. This enemy force, lots of cavalry, right? So what we're going to do here is set up a ring defense, right? This is one of the most nasty, very simple tactics you can use against a large amount of Valandian cavalry. I've named this the inner circle of hell. This is just a very effective tactic. Now, the AI does not use circles well, but I'm going to show you how to use your circle well. Notice it's cavalry. That's because those horses stand up enemy horses better than your infantry. That's just the nature of it. Whoops. Backs to each other. The 8th Corps here is just supplementary iron on that side of the formation, right? You want a good thick layer of 2 or 3 troops protecting our flank. Now, this is suboptimal. We have so many weak troops here that we've got a bunch of recruits. I don't know where they're coming from. That must be coming from... oh, you know where they're coming from? These are our reinforcements that we were bringing to Legetta. So we do have a bunch of recruits and stuff like that in our army. That's okay. We can make it work, right? We just want these guys in the circle, spread formation. We're doing that because we're going to do... I was going to say pike and shot, but actually what we're going to do is recruit and shot. We're going to mix our archers and our infantry. Now, the 1st Infantry is in a square at the front. Again, that's designed to slow down enemy cavalry. The 3rd and 4th are alternative, like this, right? That's your pike and shot formation. That way, you have Battanian Fiend Champs next to, hopefully, a guy with the pitchfork. And if any cavalry run up to that guy trying to attack the Fiend Champ, the guy with the pitchfork pokes the horse, and then the Fiend Champ shoots him off his horse, right? And everybody lives happily ever after. Now, we have a lot of troops here. These are the skirmishers. And lower this just a little bit because I can't even see their weapons. And we don't actually have a lot of skirmishers. That's because we have a raggedy army. We've got a whole bunch of recruits and other very low-level units. You can always tell because they don't have any armor. They're very colorful. A colorful unit is not a good thing. It means they have no armor. They don't color their armor, right? For the most part, maybe a shield is colored. So if you have very bright colored armies, that means you have a whole lot of recruits and other scuzzy troops. All right. That is the general gist of it. I know that kind of looks messy. We have full episodes that cover the inner circle of hell. I strongly recommend you check it out because this is utterly devastating to cavalry. Now, I think we'll just watch this battle with the RTS mod. What I can do here is I can just park out Kalinandros behind the infantry and watch this cavalry get decimated. This infantry division, either a square or a shield wall. If it's a whole lot of horse archers like this, for sure, a shield wall. Man, they have an unusual army. Maybe this is not going to work. They have a huge amount of horse archers. That's almost like a Khazate force. And this is even worse. Look at this shit. We got the standoff at the defensive OK Corral. We must officially be the attacker of the enemy because they would never engage in that behavior unless we were the attacker. So, I was worried about this. We're going to have to just forget all that shit. That's a nice little demonstration of the inner circle of hell. These are the kind of things you deal with when you narrate and play these things live. We're not save scumming. We're just playing this straight through. And sometimes that kind of shit's going to happen. So, changing all those tactics quickly. Now we've got to destroy an enemy in a ring formation. And unfortunately, they're in a really good location. If you're going to do a ring formation, that's about as good a location as you can be. You see the edge of the ridge there? Can't see their archers at all. Right, they're on top of this hill, and that means all their archers, crossbow, etc., fucking Consguards, are hidden pretty well at the top of this ridge. Doesn't mean that it's invulnerable, right? We can still defeat this, but it's going to take a little bit of finesse. We're going to approach from the flank, try to get uphill on them here, and destroy this force. Now, our units are all back there in formation, so I have to clear all the formations out and stuff like that. Apologies for that. And some of these we may just... sometimes I will just edit this stuff here. I think to keep this episode continuous, right? One continuous hour of me monologuing here for episode 2 of this. We will just move our troops up as I circle and destroy with Kalinandros' elite throwing skills. God, this guy, he's turning into a beast, bud. Love it, right? Javelin units are elite in Bannerlord. All the shields that those guys are holding up mean nothing. They just get killed, headshot, for 469 damage. You could just picture that guy flopping on the ground like a fish because he got destroyed by a good javelin throw. We actually have so many horse archers here, they're kind of menacing our troops as we're moving up, so you're going to see me countercharge occasionally with cavalry. Right? Horse archers get butchered pretty bad by charged cavalry, and that's precisely what happened. That'll give our troops a little bit of space to push up here. Now, flanking here is a precision thing. Right? You want to get to a location where your units can shoot, your skirmishers can throw their javelins without getting ripped apart by their units as you approach. Right? It's not essential. But again, we're talking efficiency in this campaign, in this episode. Right? This whole episode, in fact, may have something to do with efficiency in the title. You must be efficient at killing in Bannerlord, otherwise you're going to have a very hard time with it. And they're in such a good formation here, it's going to be very difficult to do any tactics. I should be able to get some archers here to the top of this ridge. We can split our infantry to both the right and left flank because inevitably they're going to charge. And when they charge, if you can have your units already spread out effectively on both sides of the center and the middle of the formations here, they will be flanking from the get-go. We will have, you can kind of think of it as a V shape, with the center of the V facing the enemy, and as they enter and approach the center, the bottom of the V, you simply close the top two wings. I recognize it's very difficult to see what's going on here, but we want these episodes largely raw and unedited. Right? If I just show you, oh shit, we crushed this enemy, and I show you the results, it doesn't really help you. It's important to understand that tactics are essential at this stage of Bannerlord to succeed. Now look at their cavalry trying to sneak around here in the fog. We'll give them a nice little cav division defense and shock troops on the menu for those bitches. They're going to get slammed by infantry and cavalry trying to sneak up on us, I see. We got skirmishers over here, and the enemy, predictably, is coming right down the chute. Right? So we're going to open it up and kite with these archers. No reason to have these fiend champs suffer losses. You could just leave them there, and those guys will fight, but we're going to try to protect them. Meanwhile, we'll close the vice, right? Our infantry divisions on both sides, they get moved in. It's going to be bloody, right? We don't have a lot of tactical options here. The enemy's right on us, and it was just because of their random positioning. They actually have pretty decent positioning. These archers are shredding, though. We're just pounding everything in sight. The other division will be kited soon, and they'll be adding to the carnage. Now, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 8th all attack. Those are 2 cav divisions, 3 infantry divisions, and this battle is going to end pretty quick. If you look at the power bar, it kind of says it's close, but that's going to change, right? And you can see the commensurate flushes of green here as our troops efficiently kill the enemy. Still going to suffer a lot of losses here, but again, if you auto-resolve this battle, you might lose. And if you fight with F1, F3, it might be the kind of fight where you're sweating, and palms are sweating at the end of the battle. If we suffer a very heavy loss battle here, it makes the whole rest of this campaign and recovery that much harder. Right? You just lose so many units, then you got to run back to Yalmyras to get reinforcements. Maybe you lose critical units. You lose tier 5 and 6 units. What if you lose 30 fiend champs here? Right? It just sets you back for a long time. We're going to lose probably 200, maybe 250 at most. And nothing now to do except sort of whip the enemy. Here, let's help this guy here. There's a little tiny infantryman squaring off against a nasty sharpshooter. Let's help out these little... He's like, ah! He's up here doing the best he can. We got you, bud. Now get in there and die for the Emperor. Emperor Kalinandros. I like the name Kalinandros. I don't know. It seems very... Was it Greek, maybe? And that is their troops saying that, not ours, right? And you can see we suffered more casualties there than I expected. 320. The AI did have a good position there, but that was sort of random. Nevertheless, we have many survivors, and we're going to be able to put these injured directly into Legetta. Legetta very quickly will be restored. This guy's over here killing us. There's an enemy lord. Looks like a horse archer who's giving our units hell. Let's help him out here. Damn. Now, we are using mods that make the enemy lords stronger. I've talked about that in the past, and he's just whipping this cavalryman. Everybody who attacks him is just getting mauled. We will help you, boys. Yes! All our troops roar with excitement because another victory in the books. Upgrades galore, prisoners galore, loot galore, and look at how beautiful this is, right? This is a sight for sore eyes. 72 troops that we're going to be able to add to our roster here. A heap of upgrades. I mentioned, of course, in the first episode and sometimes in this episode that he has kind of too many troops. But the solution to that problem is war, right? The solution is spreading those troops out over a bunch of cities and castles that you've taken. The solution is also fighting. If you got too many troops, get in there and get them fighting. There were times where Frederick the Great, the Prussian philosophe general of the 1750s, 60s, and Napoleon would engage in war because their fucking troops were eating all the food, right? They wouldn't write it like as a mission, but one of their goals was to kill off some of their expensive troops. I know that's horrific to think about, but that is war, right? War is hell, and a dead soldier requires no pay and eats no food. And it's very much the case with Bannerlord, right? When it's just pixels, who gives a fuck, right? This is probably why I could never be a real-life general, because that is one of the realpolitics, right? As Bismarck made famous, everything goes when it comes to war, right? Whether you're fucking lying to allies 1 minute and then betraying them the next. In true warfare, there are no rules, right? Was that other saying? In love and war, there are no rules, or something like that, right? Yeah, that's very much the case. All right, so the food situation is good here. Every city, and I'm reminding you this, I'm reminding myself, we're going to sell some food. That way the city doesn't starve. And we're going to come in here and sell all our little trinkets because we're already to negative money. We need gold, right? So every single city, we're going to be relieving the merchants of all of their gold and giving them our bent glaives and rusty boots and damaged shields and shit like that. All of our trash, these city guys are very happy to take, and we're very happy to give it to them, right? Now, let's see here. More warfare looms in this episode, in this campaign, right? So, again, we get back to a kind of a point that I would say is feel. Everybody has a different level of what is appropriate. I think a good garrison is somewhere around 125, 150, more if you can afford it, but about 150 for a frontier city. And what that does is buy you time, right? When you need to respond to that city at a later point, you should be able to make it there because it'll take 2, 3, 4 days for the enemy to get to you and destroy those forces. Now, we're also going to boost the militia here. You see this city is doing construction projects. We're going to cancel all those and activate that daily default. That'll take the plus, you can see the plus militia up there from 86. That'll take it to 86 plus 4. Right, we're adding militia every day because we're basically prioritizing now in that city the impressment of people into the army. If you've never heard of that term before, too, by the way, impressment. That was a thing in England, especially for the Navy. Nobody wanted to join the Navy. It was a very, very brutal job. You're away from home forever. You're getting scurvy. You're getting seasick. You're getting paid virtually nothing. You're basically just getting room and board, and that includes being on a fucking dank, dark, dangerous ship with bad medical doctors. They would literally get guys drunk and have them sign contracts for 10 years or 5 years or whatever while they're drunk. And in many cases, these guys never got off the ship, right? It was essentially legal servitude for the extra people. That's what I'll call them. I'm trying to think of what do we want to do here, wrap this episode up. For the extra people of Great Britain and other countries, right? I'm not saying they're the only ones who did it, but they were quite famous. And that was part of the reason the English Navy was so strong. And not because these people didn't want to be there, but because they just had lots and lots of sailors, willing or not. Now, I would suggest we take Veron Castle next in this situation, but we may have other attacks to deal with, right? Yalmyris could be under attack. Hartogia could be under attack. Let's try to take Veron Castle quickly here. Veron, the reason we're taking this, never mind. Garios is heading towards our capital. That dictates us to just turn around and head home. The reason I wanted to take Veron Castle here is that there are probably a dozen, maybe 24 units in the whole game that I consider insurmountable bastions of steel against the enemy, right? If they attack at those locations, you win, right? Unless you're just completely inept for tactics, or you have, a situation where you're outnumbered 40-1 or some insane amount. You're going to win every time. And Veron Castle is one of them. We talk about that on this channel. Of course, we have our castle series where we cover defense, and we talk about which are the best, right? Which castles and cities are the best. If you're a newer player watching this, there's no question that some locations are easier to defend than others. Lagetta is pretty good for defense. Amitatis is one of the best cities. And so fortunately, if this campaign goes on for us for episode 3, which it may at this stage, I'm looking down, it's already almost an hour. I think we're going to smash Garrios here, and then we're going to wrap this episode up. He's got an army of 1,400. Lagetta's under siege, so we're running back and forth here. We may have to pay off the Valandians for peace while we smash the Western Empire. We're going to fight this battle here as part of this episode, but I think I will have one more episode as part of this little trilogy. I guess it'll be helping Kalinandros out here. I'm also going to send you 3 save files, but I'll send you a save file from each one of these episodes. So if you want to take a little bit of the progress we've made or all of it, that'll be your choice. Now, I'm looking down at our money. We already have 200,000, right? So the goal is reached. And I bet we would have 500,000 in equipment to sell, right? We are racking up equipment because we're basically just going around like Mike Tyson and smashing everything to pulp. Our tactics, our army here is just mauling everything. All right. Now, I like to look at the army composition. They have lots and lots of infantry and cavalry. It's kill box o'clock, right? We're going to be able to set up a very simple, again, we'll do this in 5 minutes or less, at least the setting up of this formation. You want to use your terrain, right? It's important to get down and view and see, okay, I got a hill here, and the enemy has to come over that hill to attack us. Now, we attack them, but they're almost certainly going to attack us. Why? Because they have no advantage of ranged units. We have way more ranged units, and when that happens, even if you outnumber the enemy, or even if the power bar favors you, oftentimes they will attack you. It's another little dynamic for you. And almost everybody, you should be letting the enemy come to you, right? There are very few exceptions where it's better for you to attack them. In other words, what I mean by that is that if the battle starts, and like a boxing ring, if they rush right towards you in the boxing ring, let them come right at you, right? Because your archers are static, your units are set up waiting, and you will have much, much higher success with the enemy coming at you than vice versa. Incidentally, right, the previous battle against the Valandians where we had to attack, we suffered a lot of losses, right? And that is because they were static. All right, so 3rd Division here is nasty shock troops. The 6th Division looks like a good skirmisher unit. Our army is fleshing out here, right? All those upgrades are starting to finally make a major impact. In fact, we'll do a mixed division here for the 6th. But we're going to be able to do just a very, very simple C formation kill box. Their cavalry is a problem. They're going to have a huge amount of cavalry, and there's only so much you can do about 300 cavalry, 325 cavalry charging you. But we will survive. All right, let's use this elevation up here. Let's get archers set up here. That's one of the biggest keys in Bannerlord. Keep your archers safe. Make sure the enemy's archers are not safe, right? Well, basically, that's the one rule I would say that most commanders need to understand. Archers in Bannerlord are incredibly powerful, but not if they're getting trampled by horses, right? You need to try to keep them out of harm's way. All of the different techniques that we show on the channel usually have that goal in mind, right? They may have other goals in mind as well, just like having your shock troops behind your cavalry, but most of the goals really boil down to keeping our archers safe, just like this counter charge to their cavalry. Right? Just want our cavalry to occupy them while we stretch our forces out here. Keep their guys busy, haul them with your own, right? And we'll even pay attention to our archers a little bit more in this battle here because I'm mentioning this point. All right. 1st, 3rd, and 6th Infantry Divisions are going to be used strategically. We have the 3rd Division over here on our far right. The 1st Division is going to be in the middle in a square. They're defensive infantry. We want those guys absorbing enemy blows, right? They have a huge amount of infantry. We'll just feed them this square. This square can just sit right in the middle of the battle. Very standard, simple tactic. And now commence the killing. You can hear all our arrows flying, right? We'll have our cavalry's attack on the wing. Someone just hit me hard in the head. I can't see for how much, but we lost most of our health. The 3rd and 6th Division are over here on our far right, and that's skirmishers and shock troops. Now they're being charged. There's tons of cavalry, but infantry generally eat, God damn it, generally eat cavalry for lunch. Shock troops especially just destroy cavalry. Alright, so square in the center. Look at our archers back there. Look at those guys. The horse archers and archers are just fine. They're just firing away. I'm backing them up here a little bit more to give them some space. 3rd and 6th Division can charge. The 8th Corps over here, we're going to actually have them follow me, and I'm doing that to sort of close in and trap all the enemy cavalry. Instead of having them charge, have them come to you, and now all the enemy cavalry has cavalry, our cavalry on the other side, right? They're now closing in. The AI forces here are being pounded by all our horse archers right behind me. You can just hear them click, click, click. Meanwhile, whoops, sorry, dude. Meanwhile, our cavalry closes in. Our shock troops and skirmishers are mauling them. They're drilling their lords in the back. Have another one here for the road. This looks like one of their lords. Have another one. You're not going anywhere. Oh, shit. Well, our lords in our campaign, of course, have like 300 or 400 hit points. This lord would have died already in your campaign. Finally, we get Fostor, the dipshit. And I got a little distracted, but look at our archers back there. Right? Those guys are just untouched. They're just standing there. The crossbows stand there because they run out of ammo. I talk about it all the time. If you have a crossbow in a regular archer division, it's much easier to charge because the guys run out of ammo at the same time, and they have shields and a mace. You want your fiend champs and your regular archers with 2 bags of quivers shooting for as long as possible. Now we're going to pursue here, although it's about the worst conditions to try to chase the enemy. There's trees everywhere. They do have a cavalry division, pathetic little equite division coming up. And so what do you do here, right? It's not a good opportunity to run down the enemy. You simply fall back, right? F1, F5, and the guy goes, let them advance. All of your units will start pulling back. They will pull off the map, by the way. You do not want to have F1, F5 indefinitely because your troops will let the enemy engage, all right, and they will simply flee off the battlefield. So our units are backing up. What we're doing is essentially buying some time. You can see our guys backpedaling here. Now we're going to set up our formations again, right? The enemy, Garios, they still want some, right? And I think they're doing that because he's here. Generally, armies that are fighting with an emperor like this, it's good coding. It's also good role playing, right? Garios' army is not just going to melt and quit. They're going to fight, hoping somehow that they can pull out victory for the emperor here. Even though we know this fucking battle, just like Sun Tzu would say, all battles are decided before they begin. This battle was over an hour ago, right? We've been building up this army full of upgrades, full of tactics. This battle is fucking over. Now the only thing left is to do a little V-shape, collapsing on their pathetic infantry lines here. We'll move cavalry hard over there, and what that's doing is it's pulling their units that direction. Our archers over here are raking. We've got infantry reset, even though our reinforcements are getting kind of tied up with their divisions. They're all over the place. The enemy's just in a mess here. They're chasing our cavalry. It's very much like trying to chase a car on foot. Doesn't work. Meanwhile, our units are just waiting here, confident in their general, saying, yeah, give us the word to destroy the enemy, and we will do so. Up they come roaring. The enemy comes right into the center of the trap here. They just look absolutely hapless. It's 486 infantry. It's a lot. So they're going to cause some losses here, but they're also going to get melted. We can send the 8th Division to dispatch their archers. Look at how trapped they look. They literally look trapped. Now, we've got a bunch of peasants here, right? We have a lot of units, but man, there's a lot of recruits in our army at this stage. You got the Scuzz, the clash of the Scuzz at the end of this battle here. But this battle, nevertheless, is over, right? You got recruits everywhere. There's a lot of death happening simply because they have so many infantry. I could have been a little bit more careful and a little bit more patient with our archers, but this episode, I think, has run on long enough, and we're still going to have a resounding victory here. Now, they're all trying to kill you, Calanandros. They're all yelling, "Die, you bastard!" as they smash on his shield, and Calanandros crumples in a heap. Nevertheless, we can speed this battle up. This battle is utterly over. Garios is just completely slapped around like a bitch as his army gets liquidated. And I think this is kind of the perfect battle to end this episode on, right? A throttling of this Western Empire force. We were outnumbered. That shit just doesn't matter, right? They're smashed into pieces here. 400 casualties, 200 upgrades, right? That's a really good ratio. Maybe next episode I'll talk about some of the metrics I use to track how we're doing. 0 casualties for Kalinandros' army. His medicine skills starting to get up there. Most of the losses here in this battle were the militia and the garrison, right? So your scuzziest of troops, quite frankly, the replaceable guys, they are the ones that died, not our critical army units. All right, so some more prisoners here. We're not getting too tedious about this stuff, but at this stage, this has been kind of a textbook example how to turn our campaign around. We've got way more than 200,000 gold. We've got an unbelievable amount of loot, right? Maybe I'll go to the city and click sell everything just to see kind of what it says. I would love to capture Garrios here, but I think we're going to wrap this episode up. It's one troop and it's just Garrios, so we are going to try to trap this bitch here, and I'm going to start my spiel here at the end of the episode. This Disasters of War series has been a lot of fun for me, surprising a lot of fun here as we give your hero gives birth, or more accurately, your hero wife, dual purpose governor wife gives birth to a boy, Kalinandros. You've conquered basically every single foe that has come your way, and of course, obviously, I understand I'm playing your game for you. We're role playing. You can vicariously live through our play today in these couple episodes. I think there's going to be one more, right? Because I don't quite feel like our enemies are pacified here. And like I said, what I will do is then share all 3 of these save games with you. That way you can choose Kalinandros, who is shit. We got to get up to Legetta, and oh shit. The Khazate just declared war on us. So we are going to have at least one more episode of this. I'm just basically hijacking your campaign for a few hours. I've got another hour to play. And what we're going to try to do is get it to the stage where your enemies are begging for peace, right? I'm trying to trap Garrios here, and my allies are not participating. Get in there. Attack. I don't know what's wrong with these guys. Ordinarily, what I'm doing here works. Instead, they're just running right to me like a fucking yapping dog when their owner is in the yard and they bark, and as soon as you menace it, it just runs right to their owner. They're supposed to... Here, we've got him fucking totally surrounded. All right, Garrios is captured. What are you doing? She just... That was unreal. You don't see that behavior very often. She literally just sat there. Like, this is if I was a true despot, I would just execute that companion, right? You would just... Or disband her, kick her out of the clan. She literally just let the Emperor escape. That was like he paid her off. Just stand there so I can escape. Nevertheless, I digress here, right? We've got battle. We're going to have another episode here. We've got more Western Empire fucks attacking. We're probably going to have to temporarily beg the Valandians for peace. Monchug and his dipshit Khazate want some. And so there's at least another episode for this campaign. Now, I appreciate you fellas. Of course, keep sending those difficult situations in so we can try and solve them here. It's good content for me to work on. I enjoy these, and it's great for the guys watching, right? They're gaining tips and things they've probably never seen before in Bannerlord. A little bit of tactical demonstration. Everybody's happy. Of course, you want to send it to my email. All you do is send your save file. It's a really easy process. Send your hard challenges, no questions. All right, so you want to subscribe if you want to see more from this campaign. Hit that like button on the way out. Leave any comments, criticism, etc. And with all that said, friends, and Alonzo, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you next time.